All right, here we are again. Another Network Plus exam. 5 more questions for Network Plus to help you gain that certification, to help you pass your certification for Network Plus. I had a student recently come out and say, hey, how about some harder questions for CCNA? And I'm like, well, I don't feel like CCNA is valuable as Network Plus. One, it's a harder exam. And listen, I like Cisco, okay? I really do. I think Cisco is a great product, and I have nothing against them. I'm just not sure that their exam is worth the vendor-centric nature of CCNA. It's not that it's a bad exam. It's really not. It's just the only time CCNA really, I think, has a head up over something like Network Plus is if I'm legitimately trying to go to a company that uses Cisco. And a lot of companies don't use Cisco. So it's like, is the value for doing CCNA really worth it over Network Plus? And I'm not sure that it is. And so I try to stay in line with Network Plus. Now, if you want to do CCNA, go for it. And I would definitely utilize this for CCNA practice exams. But yeah, so I'm trying to incorporate some harder questions for those that are doing CCNA. I'm just saying that if I had to pick between the two, I'm not sure I would spend the extra money for CCNA unless of course my company was paying for it, in which case, hell yeah, I would do CCNA if they're paying for it. But if they're not, I just don't see the value in it. And that's my 2 cents. I'm not saying that one's over the other. I think CCNA is a harder exam, definitely more hands-on, but it only gets value from the fact that it's Cisco. And so if a company doesn't use Cisco, the value I don't think is actually there. That's my own personal opinion. That's Dr. K's opinion, nobody else's. Yeah, so let's move on. Let's get into our first question. Let's jump into this. There we go. Given the following routing table entry, what does destination network 0.0.0.0/0 represent? I like these types of questions because it's like, okay, well, I'm not giving you IP. That means it must provide something else. There's something else on here that is telling us something, because obviously the IP address, it does not matter. And so it's kind of giving us a hint. At the same time, I feel like some students would look at this and go, wait a second, 0.0.0.0 with a /0 doesn't represent anything. And so they would fall into that trap. So make sure you don't fall into that trap. Let's see if we can't take a second. Remember, we only want to spend about 30 to 45 seconds answering these questions. If we don't know the answer, we'll come back to it, right? And you know whether or not you know it. You know, right? If you feel like you can somehow guess in 45 seconds, then do it, right? But don't spend more than 45 seconds. Don't spend more than 45 seconds. If you don't know the answer, guess, flag it, we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it. That's our goal when we're taking our exam, right? We don't want to go down that rabbit hole and start going through the process and being like, oh, what do I know? What do I know? Okay. All right. What do you think? Well, I think that if you know, then you know. But if you don't know, let's kind of jot this down, right? So we have one line, and we see that S with a asterisk attached to it, and I feel like that's what we're looking at. That is the main portion. And so if we rewrote this question, we would say, given the following routing table, what does the S mean in this point, right? Because that's really what we're looking for. All right. So with that said, is it a dynamic route? No, it is not a dynamic route. If we had a dynamic route, we'd view an O. We'd see something for OSPF, maybe a BGP, maybe something like that would represent a dynamic. D actually represents, I think it's EIGRP, if I remember correctly. And so dynamic route is not the correct answer. It's not going to be a dynamic route. Local route would actually be a L. So that means we have either a default route or a static route, either an A or a C. Now, if you're looking at this and you're probably going, oh, S, that means static route, right? S indicates that it's a static route. However, we have the asterisk there. And that asterisk designates it as a candidate default route, a default route. So it's both. It's both a static route and a default route. And I think the real question then is, which is the better answer? And this is something that CompTIA does all the time. They love this. They love to give you 2 right answers, but which is the better answer? And if we looked at this, then we would know that based on that asterisk, it's going to be the default route. The default route is going to be the better answer, because I can have a static route without the asterisk. I can have that static route without the asterisk. And in that case, it's just a static route, but there's no default associated with it. And so by providing that asterisk associated with it, we know that both a static route, but also default route, the default route is the better answer. And so we're going to go with A. A is going to be the right answer. I know that is a difficult one, especially if you looked at my video, I think it was like 2 or 3 sessions ago, where we went over this as well. But our answer is actually going to be default because it's the better answer, the better answer. And I know, if you looked at this and you got it wrong and you guessed static route and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I miss that? I know, it sucks. That's okay. We learned from it. We learned from it. Just remember, we want the better answer. And that is something that CompTIA loves to do. They love to play mind games with us. And so be aware of that. All right, let's move on to question number 2. What is the main difference between half duplex and full duplex communication? What do you think? What do you think? This is where understanding those duplex models really come into play. What do you think? Give you a second. Remember, we only want to spend 30 to 45 seconds. That's what we want to do. All right, let's try and knock this one out. I feel like if you need more time, go ahead and pause the video now, right? But I feel like duplex only supports wireless communication is 100% fraud, 100% incorrect, right? And I feel like with that, we can also get rid of C, that half duplex only supports wireless communication. We know that full duplex and half duplex can be utilized both on a wired and a wireless network. And so I think that is incorrect, right? 100% incorrect on C and D. And that, we just eliminated 2 questions. We just eliminated 2 of the possible answers. Meaning we're down at a 50% chance of getting this right just by knowing that the duplexes can go over both wireless and wire communication. So that's how we're going to do this. We're going to play that game. That leaves A or B. A, half duplex allows simultaneous transmission and reception, or B, full duplex allows simultaneous transmission and reception. Well, half duplex does not allow simultaneous transmission and reception. That is a misnomer. It does not allow that. When we think about half duplex, I'm either sending or receiving. I am not doing both at the same time. But full duplex does allow for simultaneous transmission and reception. We have one line going out and we have one line coming in, and therefore we have simultaneous transmission and reception. B is going to be our correct answer. B is going to be the correct answer. I feel like you guys got that one. I feel like that was an easy one. If you know duplex. If not, as long as you learned something, that's all that we care. If you did get it right, give yourself a high five. If not, that's okay, as long as you learned something. As long as you learned something. All right, let's move on. What is an evil twin in the context of network security? Because why not network security? So I guess, what is an evil twin? What do you think? What is evil twin? I don't know. What do you think? I feel like this is another semi-easy one. I wouldn't say very easy, but I would definitely say easy. Because if you know it, you know it. And that's a lot of Network Plus is like that. If you know it, then you just know it. And if you don't, well, then you're doing the process of elimination. And that's why we do these exams like that. That's why we go through and we eliminate it. We read the question, we read the answers, we reread the question to make sure we know what it's asking us, and then we answer the question. We always read that question twice. We want to know what is it asking us, because sometimes we'll have an entire paragraph. And so that could be a problem. All right, let's try and answer this one. Let's start with D, a backdoor into a network. No, an evil twin is definitely not a backdoor into a network. That would be a backdoor. That's literally what it is, a backdoor within a network. We could also say it's a malicious backdoor. We could say, okay, well, it's remote desktop, or I'm not, sorry, not remote desktop. Remote access. Remote access Trojan maybe would provide a backdoor that's not really there. Even then, I feel like that's really stretching it. But a backdoor is a backdoor. That's not an evil twin. All right. C, a type of phishing attack. Well, no. We have phishing, we have spear phishing, we have whaling. We could even say smishing and vishing if we really wanted to go down that line. We could even say pretexting could be a form of phishing. If we really wanted to like skate the lines a little bit, we could say that. But evil twin, definitely not a phishing attack. So again, we got rid of 2. So is it a malware or is it a duplicate of a legitimate Wi-Fi network? I would say if you know what an evil twin is, then you know it has to deal with wireless access points. And if you know that it has to deal with wireless access points, then you know it is a duplicate of legitimate Wi-Fi network. Oftentimes what we'll do with an evil twin is we'll try to de-authenticate users on that other legitimate Wi-Fi. And then we will actually block that transmission we will go through and provide some interference so that you can't connect to it. And then you see, oh, there's that other one, and it looks the same SSID and all this other stuff. And then I ask you to log in, except no matter what you put in, you're going to be able to log in. And then I grab your credentials. So it puts you on a landing page, and then I'm just grabbing credentials. And that is an evil twin right there. All right, moving on. Next question. How could a floor plan be utilized in a wireless site survey? How could a floor plan be utilized in a wireless site survey? A lot of wireless questions today. Well, 2. I guess if you're looking at questions like that, I guess 2. What do you think? How can a floor plan be utilized in there? I don't know. All right, let's take a gab at this one. Let's take a gab at it. If you need to, go ahead and pause the video. If not, we're going to continue on. If you answered B, to identify potential sources of interference, unfortunately, that would be incorrect, right? We would use a spectrum analyzer for that. Maybe go through and do a little bit of testing with some RF, but we wouldn't use a floor plan for that. We really wouldn't, right? Not something we would utilize a floor plan for. I mean, I guess you could make the argument that I would use a floor plan to see where the nodes were in the building to kind of go through and see if there's any close by each other. But you're really stretching it at that point. That's definitely not the primary reason. Not even a secondary reason, I would think. I think that'd be like maybe a 4th or even 5th reason. But B is definitely not going to be correct. So I think we get rid of B. I think we can get rid of configuring IP addressing scheme. I don't think a floor plan has anything to do with IP addressing. Maybe if I wanted to like separate it on floors, maybe I could go through and say, oh, well, the 4th floor is on VLAN number 40 and the 3rd floor is on VLAN number 30. If I wanted to do that, and then I could kind of do it. But even then, not something we would normally do, right? We're usually doing it by departments, or we're doing some other form of that, but not really taking the floor plan into context, right? So definitely not something. That leaves A or C. To determine the placement of network cables, ooh, that's a valuable one. Or to plan the coverage area of a wireless access points. Both are good answers, but which one's the better answer? I have definitely used a floor plan to determine placement of network cables. 100% I have done that. And I've 100% done to plan the coverage of areas of wireless networks or wireless access points. Both have been done. However, it specifically is asking about a wireless site survey. And when we're talking about a wireless search survey, we're really kind of looking at where we could put the wireless access points as our primary. Placement of cables would be a secondary. So the answer is going to be C. The primary reason we would utilize a floor plan for a wireless site survey is to plan the coverage area of our wireless access points. Where are we going to put those wireless access points? And then, how do we get the cables there? That would be a secondary, right? But the primary would be planning the coverage of wireless access points. All right, that moves on. Last question for tonight. Why is monitoring humidity levels important in a data center? Why would I want to monitor those humidity levels? Why do you think? Why is humidity important inside of a data center? When you think data center, think, hundreds, if not thousands of servers and IT infrastructure, just a ton of machines, a ton of electricity going through there, a ton of power, a ton of cables, a ton of data transmission, all those good things. Why would I want to maintain or to monitor humidity levels? What would be a good reason for that? What do you think? All right, we're going to answer this one. Trying to make this a little bit quicker today. If you need more time, go ahead and pause that video. Let's answer this, right? If you said to prevent unauthorized access, I'm not really sure that's a thing, right? I mean, what are you measuring when somebody walks in the building? You're like, oh, well, their humidity level, they're 90% water, so that's got to be humidity levels. That raised? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's something we would utilize humidity levels for. I guess maybe if we wanted to identify the doors being left open, we could be like, the door's left open. Our humidity levels dropped by 10%. The door must be open. I just don't think so. All right. And so C, not going to be correct. Not going to be correct with the unauthorized access. What's another one we could get rid of? I feel like with that same context, we could get rid of B. To ensure proper cooling. No, we are not monitoring humidity levels for proper cooling. We have air conditioners for that. And if we want to get rid of humidity, we could use a dehumidifier. If we wanted to add more humidity, I guess we could use a humidifier. So we would definitely want to look at that, right? But we're not going to ensure proper cooling with humidity levels. I would say that anybody that lives in the South, or I live in Indiana now, I think we would all say that humidity levels definitely not going to help with our proper cooling, right? Not really a thing, all right? That leaves A or D, to prevent static electricity buildup or to maintain network security. Good answers, both of them. What do you think? What do you think? I think if you put maintain network security, then you would be incorrect, right? Humidity doesn't really contribute to network security. I feel like that was an easy one. But we do want to monitor it because we don't want a lot of static electricity building up. We don't want static electricity, and those water vapors, that humidity, can add to that, right? And so we want to monitor our humidity levels to make sure that we're not going to have any shorts or any power problems, any electrical issues inside of our data center. So we're going to monitor those humidity levels, and we're going to utilize dehumidifiers to remove humidity from the air. We want as little humidity as possible inside of our data centers to make sure that we have a dry environment. That dry environment is going to make sure that we don't have little pesky things like, I don't know, rust forming on our items or water vapor forming on our items. We don't want that, right? And primarily, we don't want a static electricity buildup. That is definitely something we don't want. All right, so that's going to be our answer. Our answer is going to be A. That's it for tonight. Thank you all, and we will see you next time. Have a good one.